Yeah, hello and welcome to a new episode of our weekly Spielworxx chat season 2. My name is Uli Blennemann and I'm having a guest today. It is Ben Maddox, the Swearmeister himself, the Beast of Berlin, the mastermind behind 5 Games for Doomsday and the creator of Design Notes with Ben Maddox at the Dice Tower. So welcome, Ben. How are you?
Just because, and I got two issues, right? Just because you've called me a swearmeister, I'm not going to say any bad words for the next 45 minutes, just to prove to you that I can go 45 minutes without swearing. And secondly, I've got a bone to pick with you, Blenneman.
Yeah,
What's all this, right? I was watching the Spielworxx chat one week with Isaac Shalev on it, and at the end you said, "Oh, Isaac." Sorry, can't do the accent. Isaac, I think you were the best guest we've ever had on this show. That was after I'd been on, Uli.
Yeah.
That was after I'd been on the show. And look, I come back.
Yeah,
just to be gracious.
This really surprises me that you are coming back. So this is the huge surprise to me. And of course, Isaac's show or this episode was much better than anyone can ever be with you, Ben.
I am, if anything, cripplingly mediocre. So that makes perfect sense.
You aren't. But let me quickly put in the URLs here. So this is for 5 Games for Doomsday. If you haven't checked this one out, first, you're not really in this hobby, in this gaming industry.
Yeah,
check
you know
it
what
out.
I'm talking about.
And then, second one, this is design notes for with Ben Maddox on the Dice Tower. This is a URL. And there are already a couple of people in the chat. So first one, Tony. Good seeing you. Tony Boydell. Tony Boydell. And he wants to get in. Then there is Andre. He's part
Arch Brexiteer Tony Boydell.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Hi, Tony. How are you? Don't leave.
Of course, and there's Andre. He's part of the Chardonnay Mafia too. So wonderful seeing you. There is the
most least threatening mafia in the world, the Chardonnay Mafia.
Yeah, exactly.
The middle class just horn in on absolutely everything, don't they? Can't the working class at least have organised crime? For God's sake.
They can, but you see, this is the working class Chardonnay because it's only good Chardonnay if it's up to €2 per bottle.
That makes sense. I know a lot of people like Andre who hang around in the U-Bahn stations in Berlin during the winter months.
Exactly. And then we are having, in addition to the Beast from Berlin, we are having the Brute from Brooklyn. We are having Daniel here.
Hello, Daniel. How are you? We've never met in real life.
Yeah, and probably it's good for both of us. Yeah.
Well, certainly good for Daniel.
Right. And there is Matt Wolf.
I mean, Uli's met me, and he has to dye his hair after his hair went shockingly grey overnight.
Exactly. There's Matt Wolf. Good seeing you, Matt. Then there is Matze. Good seeing you. Wonderful. And let's go into this now. Working class Chardonnay. Tony's saying, methylated spirits, of course.
Whoa! There's nothing like a good shot of meths.
Yeah,
the pinker, the better.
Right. And there's Ode, and he's asking, Ben, did you write my name on your screen before the mic? I'm not written with an R. So, it's
this is an official Oda sponsored. Sorry, I call him Rhoda. His friends call him Rhoda. It's an official Rhoda sponsored episode of Spielworxx.
Right, and there's Peter from Einzelspieler. Hi Ben, hi Uli. Good seeing you, Peter. I'm starting, before we go into this affair here, with some quick Spielworxx news. So for German...
Spielworxx news! Spielworxx news! It's all about shagging! It's Spielworxx news!
So I'm asking myself now, why am I having Ben here? No, I haven't having him here.
See, you get Isaac Shalev comes on and speaks all intellectually. Me, you get a free jingle. You get a free news jingle, Uli. That's what you need me for.
Yeah, absolutely. Now I understand it. So for German language viewers, Oath by Cole Worley and Leader Games is available for pre-order from my website. And then Squaring Circleville by Matt Wolf and Tharos by Bernd Scholz are in stock. Check the games out, and especially Squaring Circleville got a glowing review by Rado recently. Check out Rado's YouTube channel and see why it is his game of the month. So well done, Matt here. And The Smoky Valley by Claude Serrois, one, in my opinion, and I'm objective here, it's one of the finest expert games in recent times, will be out in January. But now back to Ben. Ben, let us look into this year, into 2021. What do you think about the year?
Part of 2021. Sorry, what was the question?
Yeah, what do you think about this year?
What a crock of shite 2021 has been. So my issue with 2021 is it has offered you the potential of freedom, and then it's just snatched that freedom back. So I said this a lot about 2020 when the pandemic first hit, and I appreciate that this is a sort of from a place of privilege, but the first lockdown kind of felt like history, right?
Yeah.
It felt like a bit exciting, like a movie and that. And then sort of the second lockdown was rough, but so 2021 in Germany, I don't know what it was like in the rest of the world, but the winter lasted forever. Yeah. And the lockdown lasted forever. So I was starting to go really stir crazy by the time the spring eventually hit. And then, you wake up in the morning, you check the newspaper, and then I heard the word bloody Omicron, and it wasn't referring to the Futurama episode. And I was just like, hey, done. I'm done. And I feel completely plague fatigue because I just want it to be over. I just want to not wear the masks. I want to not be standing in queues in a grimy Neukölln morning trying to get injected by the doctor. I want it to go, and it never will, Uli, because idiots won't get vaccinated.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. And this is what even drives me crazier than the stupid situation and the pandemic. All these people who are, and we, in my opinion, we lost them. So we can't get back them into that huge group that is society. They are out there, and if it's 5% or 10%, I don't know.
Well, the thing is, it's interesting. I think there is a difference between anti-vax and vaccine hesitant. I think both of them are making decisions based on bullshit, but I think some people are retrievable and some people are for the meantime not retrievable, right? And so the problem is I find it very hard. So I was dating a girl earlier this year, and she put something up on Facebook saying, "I stand with the unvaccinated," and sort of her view was, well, it's a choice, and I'm like, it is a choice. It is a choice not to get vaccinated, but it's also a choice to grind society to a halt. It's also a choice not to give a flying shit about anyone else's jobs. It's a choice to want to kill people's grannies because you've seen some bloody video on YouTube. And so the problem is when I think about anti-vaxxers and when I think about vaccine hesitant people, this is my instant reaction because it's my instant reaction to everything, right? And so I'm not the good person to reach out to the vaccine hesitant and get them to come back into the fold. They need someone, far, far better than me. But I mean, there's a lot of wham spoken about sort of tolerance for people's choices. Yeah. And fundamentally, this is a choice that has the potential to grind society to a standstill. And this is not just pure naked economics here. This is a choice that kills your granny.
Yeah.
And so I don't stand with the unvaccinated. I think the unvaccinated are wrong. I think they're misguided. Some of them are stupid. Some of them are just religious in the sense of they have been infected with a religious thought. And I think any religious thought within society, whether it's mainstream religious thought or whether it's this crank sort of conspiracy religious thought, is dangerous and divisive. And I think people need to stop being polite to people who are making decisions that can potentially damage society. And I know I contradicted what I said 1 minute before, but you know, I mean, I'm basically drunk most of the time, so you can't expect me to speak with any coherent sense.
No. This made to me a lot of sense, Ben. And Ode is saying, I feel you, Ben. I just have the emotional range of a tree, so I stay calm anyway. But it's very difficult to stay calm. But Tony is already having a great question.
If there is someone who is calm, especially on the internet, it's Tony. It's Tony Boydell.
Yeah, but he's saying, talk about games because I shall start crying otherwise. And then he's having another great question. Has Ben dyed his hair? So...
I mean, I don't know if that's a compliment, to be honest, because no, I haven't. I mean, my hair is this colour. I've shaved my beard a bit, so I don't look as like Father Christmas as I usually do. Yeah. My beard is completely white at this point, but my hair is still maintaining some sort of. You don't have any grey at all, do you?
Oh, I have a lot of grey. So I started in my 20s already, but I'm putting stuff in there. Otherwise, I would not be grey, but white.
Just for men only.
I would be white. So this is not a joke. This is really true.
The truth is out. Uli dyes his hair.
Yes, of course.
That's very punk, that, Uli.
This is
that
punk
level of
rock.
vanity. Very
this
punk.
Is punk rock. This is punk rock. Dyeing your hair and having a Chardonnay. But moving over to gaming. So what are your highlights from 2021? I'm not necessarily saying new games. What stand out for you?
I mean, I do have a new game that is a highlight, and it surprised me because I think it's something people don't talk about in gaming, but I think there's an inverse correlation between game quality and how cool the cover looks. If the cover has like this really cool image and it's great art, usually the game's a bit crap, right?
Yeah.
But I played a game this year. Oh, excuse me. I played a game this year that has got the coolest cover of the year, and that surprised me at how good it was. And that's Gollum. I thought Gollum was wonderful. It's very much. I mean, why they chose the potential minefield of going onto a cultural identity, I have no idea, because there's no theme there particularly, but it's a wonderfully engrossing game. It's just heavy enough. It's a lot of fun, and it's not overly long either. And I was super surprised. I bought it at Essen just because I wanted to buy one big game, and I decided, I like the cover of Gollum, so I'll give it a go. And I thought it was great. Really, really surprised at how much I enjoyed it.
But why? What stands? Is it? Can you tell us in a couple of sentences why it's that great? Because there are already people in the chat who are saying Daniel is at the top of his list. It's not in the US, and Ode is confirming that it's an amazing game. But why is it a great game?
I thought Ode was one of those people who, like, you know, those kind of people who's into something but hates absolutely everything.
Yes.
You know, like you're into music and you mention a band and they go, "Oh, you don't listen to them, do you?" I thought Ode was like that with games. I didn't think he actually liked games. But I don't know. I've only played once. So this is very much first impressions, but it's just a beautiful piece of work. The mechanics combine with each other in that great way that makes the brain feel nice. You know what I mean? It is. So I love a good, solid Euro. I think. But the problem is the market has been sort of, you know, inundated with kind of nice Euro games or heavy Euro games. And I think this is a COVID thing, that my game group skews towards the very heavy. And I'm not a very heavy gamer by inclination. I prefer a good, solid midweight Euro. That's kind of where my happy place is. And so I've been playing a lot of heavy, nasty games, a lot of splotter stuff, which might not even necessarily be rules heavy, but are cruel and nasty and very taxing on the brain. Gollum is, on the surface, one of those Euro games that looks very complex, but once you get playing it, it's super intuitive. It's just really, really well designed. And a lot of Euro games that come out now, there's one particular designer who is very well renowned, and I think his games are just not finished. I'm not going to mention their names, but they feel sort of three-quarter finished to me, whereas Gollum is a game that has obviously gone through the process, but also at the same time, and this is vital, hasn't had the spirit developed out of it. So it becomes this very bland, two-dimensional thing.
Yeah.
It's just a really pleasant, enjoyable game. I loved it. Really impressed.
Wow, this is high praise, and we are having here more praise for it. Peter is saying, for me, Gollum has one thematic tie that is a feeling that you lose control when your golems just keep running away.
That is true.
And really nice. So I have to look into it. I've seen it. I've seen the cover. So,
you'll hate it. I'm absolutely sure.
Yeah, but yeah, so let's see it. And Daniel, by the way, is saying Witchstone was a really pleasant midweight surprise from this year. Yeah.
Great. I mean, I would quibble as to whether it's a medium weight, but that's a sitting around the pub with a pints conversation. But yeah, Witchstone is brilliant. It's really good. It is. Well, what's interesting, I interviewed for Design Notes, and you'll hear the name clang as it hits the floor.
Yeah.
I interviewed Rainer Knizia, and we talked about this. And we talked about it sort of... And essentially what happened is that some guy designed a game that was based on Ingenious, and so contacted Rainer Knizia, and Rainer Knizia essentially did a bit of development work and a bit of design work on it. And so you can feel that it is unusual for a Knizia game. It feels like Knizia doing Feld. And so it is Feldy, except, again, it feels much more intuitive, it feels more refined, and it feels more designed. It was, again, really nice, which really enjoyed it.
Interesting. So I have to look into Golem, although Ode is saying it's not a game for me, but let's see. And Daniel is confirming, yes, Witchstone is pretty feldy. Yeah, and probably this is the reason he's saying why I liked it so much. I haven't played it too, but I'm not playing that many games. For me, and this is maybe something, and you mentioned this with Golem too, for me, and I mentioned this here several times, Cryo from V-Man Games in the Euro field was a very pleasant surprise, because it's also a game where you're not getting points for this and for this and for this. Whatever you're doing, you're getting lots of points. It has a clear focus, and still it's not a bland Euro. It has a thematic thing. You have to bring your people in the caves, because otherwise they die after this a spaceship crash on this planet, but it's also not a 3 hours game.
Right.
So Cryo was for me very interesting. And then I think just yesterday you asked on Twitter, Ben, shall I buy No Motherland Without by Dan Bullock? And I think it's a very good game. Is
it what's it called? Imperial Struggle sort of.
No, it's more Twilight struggle-ish stuff, but it's very direct. So you have people who want to, of course, defect from North Korea, and it has a map even where they are traveling. But it's not complex at all. It's just a typical war game production. So it has lots of very tiny pieces, and all the pieces are red on a red map. So this is
great graphic design choices.
Right. But it's a great game, and otherwise, what was pleasant in this year, gaming-wise, was a lot of vessel gaming. So I had one group with Christoph, with Steffen, with Dirk, and Mark Herman, and Dan Thoreau, so Space Biff, and especially Westphalia by Amabel Russell was excellent, because this is a 6-player only game, and we had this group, and it was fantastic. And this is not a 5-hour game, so it's a 2.5 hours game, and with 6 people, wonderful. And of course we had these games where with the parts of the Chardonnay Mafia, with Andre, with Marcus, with Chris from the US, where we played Pax Pamir and an Infamous Traffic. So these are my highlights.
You know what 2021 has really taught me? I cannot stand playing board games on the computer. I cannot stand it. I hate it, and I don't do it now. at all. I'm lucky that I've got a sort of bubble where we can play games. I just hate it. I've played a few games sort of on Tabletop Simulator and stuff, and it's intolerable. I hate computers. And I think part of the reason I got into board gaming so hard was that it seemed a sort of willfully analog hobby, Yeah. But it took me away from my screens.
Yeah,
so I can't do it. I just can't do it.
I feel you, Ben. It's and especially TTS and Tabletopia, where the games are taking so long. In this regard, I think Vessel is a lot better, but it's still that you are staring at your screen. And I totally get it. But for me, it either means not playing at all or playing. And but I would rather play on the table with these groups of people, even if you're using Skype. It's not the same thing. Because you can't hit these people smash them in their faces. This is one of the worst things in online gaming. So yeah, I understand this totally. And one thing I want to get back to Peter just quickly. He's saying Cryo is beautiful, or is very beautiful. And here I would disagree. To me, graphically, the game does nothing. So I would even say it is bland. But what I would say, that it is very well developed. So even the small cardboard pieces, they fit into your player mats. So from a design standpoint, physical design of all the components, I think this is really brilliant. It's just that, to me, the color choices aren't doing anything. But you see,
I honestly think it doesn't matter two bits,
Yeah,
what the game looks like. I was having a conversation about this. Another highlight for me of this year was Tinner's Trail. And me sort of talking about how much I enjoyed Tinner's Trail was greeted with rounds of people telling me how stupid I am. But I think it's wonderful.
It's great. It's
I don't think it's as good as Brass, but it feels like a sort of entry-level Brass, right? And the production is beautiful. That's undeniable. It looks really great.
Yeah.
But I was having a conversation about this. Frankly, and people talk about all the tactility of games and stuff, but I still think board games primarily live in the head.
Yeah.
And, you get the game out and it looks beautiful, and for 2 turns you're like, oh, this is lovely. But then once you're into the game, the sort of game pieces sort of melt away into the pure sort of cerebral experience of it. And so, I was having this argument. I think this trend for having games that are 140 quid is an awful trend that we've gone down.
Yeah.
I remember when Rococo came out, and it was 40 quid originally when it came out, and now Eagle Griffin come out with this medium weight game that it's 140 quid, and you can only get it for 140 quid. I think it's an absolutely terrible development.
Yeah, it is. It is.
I would say yes to Eagle Griffin too, because I'm sure the money's great, but at the same time, this super deluxeification, I think, is grotesque. And people talk about, the desire for diversity in the hobby, and I think diversity is absolutely necessary. But we can't forget that, in one way, board gaming is absolutely the least diverse hobby around, because it's just an absolute middle-class preoccupation.
Yeah.
Everybody in gaming is middle class. And it doesn't help when, if you want to play a Lacerda game, you've got to pay 140 quid for the privilege of it,
Yeah, I agree. I think this overproduction is a pretty dangerous trend, but it may soon end, because the games will, even the smaller, less expensive one, will get more expensive because of the resources. You can't get raw stuff anymore for a price, and Asmodee will increase in North America the whole line for the second time in January. They did it.
Have you seen this Foundations of Rome game?
No, I don't.
The new Arcane Wonders one.
No, I haven't seen it. But
it's basically a Ticket to Ride weight game that comes in a box that is the size of a Kallax cube. Where you can usually fit 4 game boxes in, you can fit 1. and it's grotesque, it's decadent. It feels like the hobby has been taken over by sort of 4-year-old children going, I want the big one, I want the big one. You know that trick you play with kids, right?
Yeah.
Where you offer them a £1 coin or £1 in change, and they always go for the change because the change looks like more.
Yeah.
This is what's happening in gaming now. You know, can we extract as much crap? Can we get as much crap made in China as possible when they're overthrowing, democratic demonstrations in Hong Kong, and pretend it's okay?
Yeah, but
just so we can have endless amounts of plastic. I mean, I think a reckoning needs to come into gaming. And I know it's a small industry and all of that, but I think a reckoning needs to come into gaming at some point where we need to say, okay, we need to stop supporting totalitarian regimes. We need to think of the environment, and we need to start manufacturing in our own country. Maybe the games may be a little more expensive, but if we remove all the crappy plastic that's completely unnecessary, then they won't be, right? And
yeah, but in theory, you're right, and I would support you with everything 100%. The problem is that we are having some companies with 3 or 5 employees, and these employees want their paycheck every month, and so the leaders, the CEOs, the company owners, they try to make this happen. And here in Europe right now, you can't produce the games anymore because you can't get them printed. Ravensburger, Cosmos, Asmodee, with their several brands, they have booked the whole manufacturing line up to end of next year. So you can't produce them. And even if you are not using plastic, you have to go to China. Or you aren't producing your games anymore. Right. And this is really a huge, huge problem. And if you're producing in Europe, some people will say, oh, look at this wood. It's not even with screen printed on them. It's just your cubes. It's not good enough anymore. And this is difficult and also dangerous. But I agree on this huge games that it is a little bit too much. And I have a couple of comments here that I would mention briefly. And Matt is saying, as an Eagle Griffin designer, the money isn't great, he's saying. And then we are having, let me just see here. And Tony is saying Rome, Sweet Rome is better than the Foundation of Rome. Tony, I still have to look at your game. I'm very sorry. Yeah, but your game must be better. And Peter is saying Obsession would be also a great Spielworxx title. I've played it even with Ode here. I've played it later and I like it a lot because it's so thematic. But I think after these 2 print runs, for just doing a German edition of it, it's probably, and Uli is saying, Uli introduced me to Obsession, yeah, it's probably not worthwhile doing this. But trend-wise, Ben, I'm 100% with you. But Ben, what do you think about Asmodee? So is it more a net positive thing for the industry?
Absolutely, it's not, right?
Yeah. No.
I mean, I don't see how it can be a net positive when one company buys not only all the game companies but all the distribution channels too. Yeah. I mean, if you look at the rise in price of games, I'm sure there are many factors, and I'm sure a significant factor of that is Asmodee. Just because, if the industry leaders say this is what it's going to cost now, of course it makes sense for people to follow them, right? Also, this is why I was having a chat about this. This is why I love Delicious Games, Vladimir Suchi's company.
Yes.
Because he seems willfully making games for €50, right?
Yeah.
He could do these deluxified things, and he doesn't. All of his games, which are prime sort of mid to heavyweight euros, prime for this sort of deluxification, he just makes them normal, and they're great too. Yeah. And also I was having a discussion on the internet about this the other day. Now, I don't know anything about business, obviously, but when I got into gaming, my touchstone for gaming, the company that gave me the butterflies in my tummy, the company that made me think, that were making games that were special and exciting and that made me want to come to the table was FFG. I loved FFG games. When I first started gaming, before I became sort of addicted to the cult of Eurogames, I bought Descent and I bought Blood Bowl Team Manager and I bought Battlestar Galactica and all of these games. And even if Asmodee is great for the industry as a whole, it has gutted Fantasy Flight. Yeah. Fantasy Flight is almost a nothing company now. And I think that's a real shame because, I mean, I couldn't speak to the personality of the people who were running Fantasy Flight previously, but there felt that there was a real sort of passion for the games they were making. And not all of them were IP games, right? No. And not all of them. So basically FFG is just LCGs now that you can't get hold of. That's all it is. Terribly organized print runs of LCGs that you can't get hold of. And I think that's a real shame. And it's a strange thing, right? It seems to me that they leave their European companies sort of well enough alone. Lookout is a great example. Lookout is still brilliant. Yeah. And yet the American companies, they seem to really tinker about with them. And yeah, they gutted Fantasy Flight. It seems to me that Plaid Hat is far better without them.
Yes, absolutely. That was a smart move to try to get loose from Asmodee again. And yeah, right.
And they own everything now, and Ignacy Trzewiczek has talked about this a lot. Is the danger is not owning the companies because people can leave and they can form new companies, right? But people can't leave and form new distribution networks.
No, absolutely.
And that is, everyone said, well, you'll only be able to get Asmodee games because they'll only distribute their own games. Well, that's obviously not going to happen because that would be moronic. You want to sell other people's games too. But what's going to happen is they're going to clog everything up and they're going to increase prices on everything. And it's going to exacerbate an already bad problem. And I think when they get that big, that's problematic. And that's why America has laws against it, isn't it? Yeah. Antitrust and all of that, though I don't know if they're violating that, probably not.
No, I don't think at this point, but when the CEO of Asmodee, Carville, said in this presentation, he said, we are the Steam platform of board gaming, and everybody who's playing video games and using Steam knows what this means. And Ben, you're right. They won't say to other companies, no, we won't distribute you. We don't want to have you in retail. They are not that stupid, but still they can make sure what is in the front, what is in the back, what is in the light, what sees less light. And you're right, the problem is that they are not only controlling publishing, but distribution and more of retail as well. And this is,
surely that's a conflict of interest. No?
It is, I agree. But I have to say briefly hi to Markus Pöppelschieber. Good seeing you, another member of the Shadow.
Pöppelschieber, he sometimes likes my tweets.
Yeah, and he's sometimes, most of the time not, but for a good reason. And,
yeah, absolutely. It's only the politically questionable ones that he likes.
Yes, agreed. And he's a member of the Chardonnay Mafia.
Who isn't at this point? I mean, if a bottle of Chardonnay, if it's only £2 for a bottle of Chardonnay, I think everyone can get in on the Chardonnay Mafia.
Yeah, and my favorite thing, one of the favorite things of this year's Essen was, so Markus did a wonderful job explaining Square and Circle at the booth at Essen. And then there was another gamer pointed to Markus and said, well, aren't you a member of the Chardonnay Mafia? And I loved it. And yes, that was right. But Ben, I have some questions for you.
Ooh,
which type of gamer? Which type of gamer are you?
Little girl so happy. What?
So do you like action? So is Chaos the one that Chaos games? Are you maybe a war gamer? Do you like combat? Or are you more a social gamer who loves to simply play with others? Of course, still competing. Or do you want to master a game, play it 100 times, and then be a master of this? Or are you an achiever? Do you want to get as many points as possible? Do you love immersion in games? Or do you love the creativity in games and the experimentation with them? So which type of gamer are you? Because these are the 6 general types of gamers.
So I don't know which one. So my happy place, as I've said, is midway Euros, right? I like that idea of being able to sit and plan sort of two. I'm terrible at them, by the way, and I know a lot of people say that, oh, I'm terrible at games. No, I really genuinely am though. But I like to sort of have that feeling of planning a couple of turns ahead. I don't like so part of the reason I don't like Terraforming Mars, for instance, is that it's a Euro game and then it has those take that cards that are just completely incongruous.
Yes, right.
And I don't mind sort of confrontation in games, but it needs to be set out.
Yes.
I don't want to think that I'm doing this one thing and then suddenly someone just goes and kicks my sandcastle over.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm certainly not a master because I don't play games often enough. I'm a social gamer in the sense that I like to have a chat with people when I'm playing games, but the games are the important thing, right? I can, if I want to socialize doing other stuff, then I can socialize doing.
We can have a beer or a Chardonnay.
I mean, I wouldn't have one with you because more than 2 beers, the stuff that comes out your mouth is quite frankly disgusting. But I mean, normal people, I could do that with. So it's definitely the games are the important thing. It's not just the people. Because have you met board gamers? Christ. Whatever that sort of achiever, I guess, would be the closest in the sense that when I start playing a game, I say, okay, this is what I want to do by the end of the game. And it's not necessarily winning, but I want to have got this. Yeah. I want to have built this thing or whatever, And as long as I can do that, then I feel sort of relatively satisfied. That's the kind of gamer I am. I'm not good enough at games to be particularly concerned about winning, and I don't play them enough to master them. And I'm not one of these dickheads that just likes to inflict pain on other people just for the sake of it either. That seems pointless to me.
Yeah, I agree 100%. So for me, it's more immersion. So I started as a wargamer. That's why always theme and topic is very important. But I'm also a social gamer. But like you said, Ben, if it's just, we can have conversations without the game. So if somebody wants to talk at the gaming table, that's fine. Have a story about this. But if it's just talk story and the game falls to the back, then I don't like it. We have to concentrate on what we are doing at a certain level, and this is what I really like. And mastery, like you, I'm not playing a game enough to become a master, and I know from Ode that I think, and please Ode, if this is not true, say so, that he played Underwater Cities for more than 100 times, and
he's still crap at it. Apparently, I was told.
Of course, he tries his first win, so he has now 187 games. All 2-player games.
He hasn't scored more than 3 points in any of those games, I heard.
Yeah, and you start with 5 in this game.
Yeah, exactly.
And Dan is confirming that's pretty similar to how I play, to what you said. But Ben, let's move to books. Do you have a book highlight? Are you reading, or what are you doing?
You asked me this, and I consider it a dead technology to a large degree. I mean, this isn't 1993 anymore. I don't know what people are reading books for. But and I was listening to a podcast the other day, and it's a very famous British podcast called In Our Time, which is an intellectual podcast where they talk about certain ideas. And they were talking about a book, and I realized, and this is going to be a hokey recommendation, but I don't care. I realized that this is a book that has accompanied me through so many of the good times in my life, just because I've been in so many different adaptations of it on the stage. And Christmas is always great when I'm doing this. I always feel the most Christmassy when I'm doing an adaptation of this story. And for the last production I did, I read the book again and hadn't read it in years, and it's a wonderfully engrossing tale, and it is sentimental and uncynical. And I think we can get swept away with thinking cynicism is cool, because cynicism is cool, but sometimes we just need to be swept away in pure good intentioned feeling. And so I would recommend that everyone try and grab hold of A Christmas Carol this year and give it a read. It's short. And everyone thinks they know the story, but if you read the book, there's loads of stuff in it that are never in the adaptations, that is really affecting, really tender. I'm not a big Dickens fan. I tend to find Dickens, especially his portrayal of working class people, tends to be very crude, very broad. But A Christmas Carol is him at his pure, sentimental best. And it's a wonderful book, and it makes me feel very Christmassy. So I would recommend... And, you know, it's public domain. You don't even have to pay for it.
Yeah.
Go and read Christmas Carol this year. It's a great story.
So you see this, in my opinion, Ben, this is a wonderful recommendation. So thank you for this. And Matt said earlier that we are calling, or we are talking about, or behind Otis Beck. No, we aren't. Otis Beyerbube in the chat. So he is here with us.
It's just he's been so shocked by our sick burns that he can't speak anymore.
Right.
Take that, Odendahl.
Right. Yeah, and Tony is confirming that Christmas Carol is beautiful. And yeah, so you can probably, as Tony is saying, find it on the BBC iPlayer. So yeah, that's wonderful. So Oda left a while ago. Now we are talking about his back. So now we can really start talking. Okay, but I have another book choice, and compared to Christmas Carol, definitely it's different. So and this is a really strange choice, and it is Ernst Jünger in Stahlgewittern. So English title is In Storms of Steel. And this is a book from 1920. So it was written in 1920. And I reread it a while ago, and it grabbed me again. So here's a URL if you want to find out more about Ernst Jünger. You can find stuff here. And when I'm saying that this is a strange choice indeed, it's definitely not an anti-war book like Remarks All Quiet on the Western Front. And it is based on his own World War I memories. And the language, of course, this book has been written more than 100 years ago. The language is old and a little bit outdated, but it is strong, and strong is even an understatement. So, and what are you doing, or what is happening in the book? You are following Lieutenant Jünger through the whole World War I. And so, and the language is that strong that you are moving through the trenches all the time. You are at the Somme, you are at Cambrai, you are at the so-called Kaiser's battle, and Jünger was wounded 14 times during the war, 11 times by shots, 3 times by artillery bursts, and he was awarded the Pour le Mérite, which is the highest award during World War I for German soldiers, and one of only 5 infantry officers in the whole war. And Jünger is also a very interesting character because he became 103 years old, died only in the late 90s, and despite his lifelong experimentation with drugs, especially cocaine and LSD. So he started as a conservative and of course as a soldier, and as I said, it's not anti-war, but it's very strong. And it also tells you that we are, despite the pandemic with all this, can be very happy to not endure war. Because here in Europe, we have, despite from some Balkan countries, we are having no active war since 45, and we can be really, really grateful for this. So in Storms of Steel, if you like reading that stuff, or in Germany in Stahlgewittern, the title tells.
Do you think this is a book that will suffer in translation? Is his prose style so idiosyncratic that it's difficult to convey in a different language?
I don't think so. I don't think so. So there are so many different German editions, all done by him. The latest one is from '78. He always changes the text slightly. And I think if you have a pretty early translation, I think it's you're not losing a lot. And as Christoph, good seeing you, is saying good stuff, but not for the faint-hearted. And I agree, because sometimes and this is really true, he's 3 days in one of these grenade Trichter, or what's craters, and together with dead people. And of course, you can imagine what this means, being there for 3 days. So it's unbelievable, and it's different when you're reading about this in a coffee table or in a history book, or reading a memoir about it. So
I think a real bad thing with the pandemic is that the internet has led us to become very self-regarding anyway, to sort of be left often with just ourselves and people who think the same way that we do. This is why I think sometimes the mute button on Twitter is quite a dangerous thing. And with the pandemic and having us all shut indoors, we've become very self-obsessed and very obsessed with our own issues. Yeah. And I think things like this, where you can read it and go, oh my God, I thought I had it rough when I couldn't buy bog roll for 2 days,
yeah,
can help to broaden the mind. I think we need, in times like this, because we're all going nuts sitting indoors, I think the pettiest things can drive us crazy, and we can be fooled into thinking that we have the worst of it. Yeah. And I think reading things like this can make us realize, oh, okay, I've got heating and I've got the internet, and things could be worse. And I think that's very valuable.
Yeah, and this was... you described it much better than me. So if you are into these books, I can recommend Ernst Jünger in Storms of Steel.
Storms of Steel.
In Stahlgewittern, which is also in German language a very strong title. But right now, this band, we are both planning going to Lariacon in late March in Portugal.
Planning is the word, Uli.
Yeah, we are planning this, and let's assume for a second we make it to Portugal in late March. And I know that you love Through the Ages. And yes. I haven't played the game in ages, so pun intended, I wrote this pun down, so I'm really proud of myself. Quality. Shall we play a game of Through the Ages in Portugal?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know, for people who don't know, Lariacon is this sort of magical oasis of gaming. So I don't know where people are. I think a lot of people here are in Northern Europe, and some people in sort of East Coast America. And it's bloody miserable in winter. And you get to go to Portugal, and it's incredibly cheap. You pay something like, I don't know, it's something like €300 for 4 days.
Yeah.
Full board, as much red wine as you can drink, as much squid as you can force down your gullet, And you get to play games. And I only went once in 2019 because then the pandemic hit, right? And it reminded me kind of what gaming is, right? Gaming is sitting around, just being, and it's just this wonderful thing of sitting in a room and everyone gets you, right? Yeah. Everyone understands and everyone feels basically the same way about these things that you do. But what's wonderful about it is it's small enough to feel intimate enough to feel like there's a community. You don't get swamped in crowds of people, and it is very focused on playing the games, and the people who run it really care.
Yeah.
that you have a good time,
Yeah.
which is incredible. And I would recommend it to anybody if they get the chance to go to LariaCon. It's truly the best gaming convention out there.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
In spite of Uli going.
Yeah, this is true. And Andre said he had to leave already to decorate the Christmas tree with the family. This is important too. Although I guess you are also having a glass of cheap Chardonnay at the same time. And Tony is saying he wants to play TTA with us at LariaCon. I'd say if LariaCon is happening, let's make this happen.
And if he stays awake.
Right.
He's usually asleep at a table by 7 in the evening.
This is true. And there's Meeple Pete. Hi, Pete. Good seeing you.
Meopolis.
And I thought the John Company game is still on the table. And yeah, why not playing both John Company and Through the Ages?
Well, we did plan pre-pandemic to have a Cole Whirly day, didn't we? At LariaCon.
Yes,
and it didn't happen.
Absolutely.
So I think we discussed this briefly at BerlinCon, Uli, but I know we won't discuss that. We won't. I'll explain to you afterwards why we won't discuss it.
Okay.
Something just occurred to me. It's nothing bad, but we won't discuss it on the Spielworxx chat.
Yeah, because this is all real quality here.
Exactly.
But because we are speaking about quality, we are ending this now, I guess. So thank you very much, Ben. This was wonderful having you here. And if people, I can't imagine why, if people really would like to reach you, how can they do so?
Tinder is a thing.
TikTok?
Frankly, I was sort of, man looking for woman originally, but it's got to the point where just, anything, dogs, rabbits, frankly, so Tinder is a possibility. If you want to hear my work, as I so over-grandizingly call it, you can go to 5gamesfordoomsday.com at the moment.
Yes.
So the last interview was Stephen Conway of the Spiel. Incredibly fascinating guy, an incredibly fascinating interview. I've started a series of live play solo role-playing games. I did 1,000-Year-Old Vampire, which recently came to an end, and I just started the first Session 0 is up of Long Haul 1983, which you drive a lorry and get eaten by aliens. Also, you can go to the Dice Tower, design notes, lots of different people. The good Tony Boydell is up there. Talking about games, so I only talk to the cream of the designers. And also, if you're in the UK, which you're probably not, I also write the Agony Aunt column in the tabletop gaming magazine in the UK that you can buy at all good newsagents.
Very good.
So, yeah, you can do that too. So get out there.
Yeah, do this. And
Tinder is the most important one.
Tinder and TikTok, of course. And TikTok, right? So, to all viewers, and of course also to you, Ben, thank you for your time. And if you would like to see a special topic discussed, have a question for a future episode, and like to ask that question in advance, please drop me a mail at uli@spielworxx.de. That is uli@spielworxx.de. And everybody who isn't and has a chance, get boosted. Here, Iserlohn boosted.
Yes.
This is what is.
I can't imagine there's anyone watching this who hasn't been, but anyway, go and get vaccinated.
Yes, please do so. And
I don't stand with the unvaccinated.
Right. Till then, bleibt gesund and happy holidays to everyone. Until next week, Black Lives Matter. Bye-bye. Bye.